Recently, a wave of defaults has swept across mainland China. Not only has there been many defaults on mortgages, but also cutoffs on studying abroad, which refers to the financial difficulties facing overseas Chinese students. Their parents are unable to continue to pay for high tuition fees and living expenses due to the closure of businesses, failure of investments, or the loss of well-paying jobs.
觉得我公主本上线这个视频数据一定很好。家人们，我真的压力太大了。我感觉自从我来了澳洲之后。
Families, I'm really under a lot of pressure. Since I came to Australia, life has become very difficult because my mother only gives me a very small allowance every month. Perhaps she wants me to mature fast. I have to think of ways to make money. Plus, my professional studies are quite challenging.
专业学的东西又难，每次写作业。
I don't feel good about these assignments when I do the animation work. There are a lot of things going on at work too. It's totally different from when I was in college. I'm wondering if I can make enough money to support myself.
刚好现在12点。
It's now midnight. I'm going to shower and go to bed, but I feel like I need to let off some steam. What's the saddest?
发现一下，最可悲的是什么？是我觉得我公主本上线。
I feel like when I cry so hard, the traffic for this video will be better. This is what I'm thinking, even when I'm sad like this. I'm just hopeless. What should I do? Who can rescue me from this?
谁来救救我呀？
On July 10th, the website of Study Abroad and Immigration published an article titled, Study Abroad with No More Money. It featured 3 cases of overseas Chinese students whose parents can no longer support them. Let's have a look. Zheng Linglu is a sophomore at the University of California, San Diego. Her mother used to run 5 private schools in a Chinese city. When the epidemic started in 2020, many parents chose to drop out of private schools. The family started losing money because salaries and rent still needed to be paid. The schools managed to stay on, surviving the epidemic. The next year, the winds of the education industry in China changed, so her mother invested in the restaurant business but lost a fortune. As a result, the mother had to cut off all her daughter's expenses. Putting down the phone, the 20-year-old girl was trembling. Her life had fallen from a high point to a low point overnight. The girl used to vacation all over the world with her girlfriends, regardless of money, just for the experience. She said, I once stayed for a week in a row in a hotel that cost more than $900 a night. It had beautiful gardens out the window that you couldn't see the end of, a classical piano in the living room, and afternoon tea was delivered to the bedroom every day. Now she cries every night and eats only one meal at 2 p.m. every day. She goes to the front of Starbucks to smell the coffee when she gets hungry and has also picked up vegetables that are about to expire at school. Chen Jie, a sophomore at the University of Glasgow in the UK, used to buy 2 to 3 new designer bags every month, sometimes buying all of them if she liked them. One day her mother called and told her, the family's economy is failing, you need to be mentally prepared. She felt her mind had gone empty, unable to think or accept the cruel reality. In the end, she was forced to return home. Before she left, she went to a luxury store that recycled more than a dozen of her handbags and raised more than 200,000 yuan, or about $28,000 to help pay for the daily expenses. Hurye's father used to have 4 processing factories. He usually paid a deposit in advance and the final payment after delivery. In between, he had to advance many material costs. Last year, during the epidemic, there were power restrictions that limited or prevented the factories from operating at certain times. And from May 2022 onwards, many orders had to be refunded, and the factories suffered serious losses. Hurye said the amount of money lost in the 3 years of the epidemic was enough to pay for a study in Boston for more than 10 years. He still chooses to continue his master's degree in the US. Now he has cut out all extra expenses, cooking for himself, and does everything from online tutoring to shopping for others on Amazon. In the end, he has found a way to survive in a US Chinese restaurant. On July 11th, a Chinese student referred to as LZ posted a request for help on the Study Abroad forum. Today, I suddenly learned about my father's financial situation. It turned out to be bad after I came to the US in 2022. Today, I heard my mom say that my dad couldn't find a job like he did before. In order to make a living, he is working as a property manager. He starts early in the morning, working till late at night, making 3,500 yuan a month, or about US $480. My mom, who is already retired, started selling insurance again to increase her income by about US 200 to 300 a month. This is the low point of my life. My overseas study fund was already cut off on June 20th. I am about to graduate in 2 more semesters. If I drop out now, not only will I have wasted this year's tuition, but I won't be able to get my degree. I really feel helpless. According to statistics, Chinese students have been the largest group of international students in the US for more than a decade. However, with the downturn of China's economy, more and more Chinese families are unable to afford the cost of studying in the US. These bankrupt families basically haven't made any outrageous mistakes. No gambling, no drugs, no crime. Rather, it's due to the collapse of the industry they're in, or investment mistakes, or the impact of the epidemic on the industry. Behind each of these cases lies numerous similar family tragedies. According to the Open Doors USA 2022 report, jointly presented by 3 government agencies on November 14, 2022, China remained the leading source country for students studying in the US. In 2022, there were more than 290,000 Chinese students studying in the US, or 30.6% of the total body of international students. However, the number of Chinese students is on a downward trend. In 2021, it dropped 14.8% compared to 2020, and another 8.6% decline in 2022 compared to 2021. In addition, according to Voice of America, previously tens of thousands of Chinese students have been studying in the UK each year, and the numbers have been at record highs. But this year, the numbers have started to fall. As of June 30th, 2023, the number of Chinese students enrolling in British universities fell 17.5% compared to 2022, marking the first time in nearly a decade that the number of applications declined. The phenomena of China's overseas students losing financial support from their families reflects the fact that as China switches the gears of its economic operation abruptly to a different course, the cash flow for many families has suddenly become very tight. For many Chinese families, the most evident is that they can no longer make their mortgage payments. This trend represents a much larger group of homebuyers who start defaulting. Our channel has been tracking this phenomena for a while. So how serious is the mortgage default crisis in China? According to the latest official statistics, foreclosures in China have been on the rise, with 5,000 foreclosures in 2017, 3 million in 2022, and 5 million in 2023. The numbers from the Chinese public are even more frightening. As early as 2022, a netizen quoted from a banking and financial system risk control conference that there were nearly 40 million defaulted mortgages nationwide, and more than 10 million foreclosed properties, so a wave of defaults was present already.
I defaulted on my mortgage, and my home is taken by the bank. In 2019, I spent 2 million yuan or $280,000 on a 3-bedroom in Dongguan, with a down payment of more than 600,000 and a loan of more than 1.4 million yuan. My monthly payment was more than 8,000 yuan or $1,100 per month. In April 2022, I had no income, and I was forced to default on the mortgage. By that time, I realized that I still had 1.3 million yuan principal, or $180,000 remaining. Over 3 years, I had repaid more than 300,000 yuan, among which more than 200,000 yuan were interest. Half a year after I defaulted on the mortgage, the bank sued me, and the court's judgment came down. They seized all my bank cards, including the WeChat wallet, with some overdue penalties, attorney's fees, and court costs. The amount added up to almost 100,000 yuan. A few days ago, the bank notified me that the home was soon to be auctioned off at a discounted price, roughly $1.4 million. Given the poor market condition, no one dares to buy. If it was sold at the auction price, I would have no place to cry. I would lose my home, but still owe the bank hundreds of thousands of yuan. With the monthly payments I made before, which was more than 300,000 yuan, plus the down payment, my loss is as high as about 130,000 US dollars. This is the consequence of buying a home beyond my means. Here, I advise everyone who plans to buy a property, you need to do so within your means and don't force it. Only do things with the amount of money you have in your pocket. There's no way you can guarantee that you will always have the income you had yesterday, especially those who have to borrow for the down payment and have to repay the monthly payment for 30 years. Don't do it. I'm the bloody lesson you can learn from.
China's real estate market is currently in a downturn, entering a real winter period. The BBC Chinese website also reported that investment in China's real estate development in the first half of the year fell by 7.9% year-on-year, while investment in June fell by 20.6% year-on-year, a drop of more than 20% for 2 months in a row. Why is China's real estate industry rapidly cooling down? Our channel has explored similar issues before. Here, we will do a brief review. For a long time, when China's economy showed signs of slowing down, the CCP's government would often stimulate the economy by increasing investment. The economic model of state capitalism allows the government to mobilize factors in a much greater way than in other market economies. In 2016, China launched a real estate boom that involved massive demolition of urban areas to build new homes via the policy of Shantytown Reconstruction Monetization 2.0. What this policy does is to demolish a set of urban houses, and the government will pay the compensation directly to the demolished households so they can go shopping for homes on the market. By doing this, it will add new liquidity on the market while clearing out the inventory of homes for sale. China's real estate market is once again rising in volume and price, with real estate developers riding the wave of policy through aggressive, highly leveraged operations. It instantly inflated the market and boosted Evergrande boss Xu Jiayin to the position of China's richest man. All local governments got into the real estate business. As a result, high debts of these governments, the financing platforms, and the highly leveraged liabilities of state-owned banks emerged due to real estate. Rapidly rising property prices across China prompted more people to borrow money to buy real estate in pursuit of price hikes. Some of them bought properties for personal use, while many bought for investment and speculation. It indirectly led to a huge increase in residents' indebtedness. The leverage ratio of residents reached 65%, with mortgage loans accounting for as much as 55.6% of household debt. Not only did homebuyers become increasingly fanatical, even listed companies also began to invest heavily in real estate. Among the 3,743 listed companies in China, there were 1,826 listed companies holding investment real estate, accounting for more than 48% of the companies, with a market value of 1,334 billion yuan. The average value of real estate investment rose, and the real estate market became a speculative pool of capital. However, by 2020, China put forward 3 red lines regulating the financing of major real estate enterprises and imposed stringent limits on financial institutions in terms of real estate lending. Within a few months, more than 100 highly leveraged real estate enterprises defaulted on their bonds, broke their capital chains, and even collapsed, resulting in the emergence of many rotten-tailed buildings. In 2022, hundreds of homebuyers who bought pre-sold units signed an online statement announcing that they would stop paying mortgages on the rotten-tailed or unfinished buildings. More companies are going bankrupt everywhere, especially real estate companies. A company's bankruptcy often brings hundreds or even thousands of foreclosed homes. For example, in Hangzhou, Zhejiang Province, 3 heavyweight developers went bankrupt in 2023. These 3 companies alone have thousands of homes put up for foreclosure. The closure of many companies or layoffs have caused a large number of unemployed workers. The loss of jobs have made them unable to continue the mortgage payments. After 6 months of defaulting, the banks start to file lawsuits. The bank lawsuits have been accelerating since the epidemic was over, resulting in the surge of foreclosed houses in 2023. Let's listen to the heartfelt story of another individual who almost jumped out of a building because he was unemployed and couldn't afford his mortgage.
我断供了，我决定现在开始断供的。
I've decided to skip the mortgage payment now. The bank can do whatever you want. Buying this house is the most regrettable thing I've ever done in my life. When I bought this house, I put down 300,000 yuan and borrowed more than 1 million, totaling 1.3 million RMB. I paid more than 900,000 yuan in interest, or about 180,000 US dollars. Not only did I spend all of my wife's and my savings, but I also borrowed a lot of money from various places. Now I have to pay back more than 5,000 per month, or about US 700. Most of it is interest. I have only paid off a little over 30,000 yuan, or US 4,000 in principal. I have to do this for 30 years, but the key is that I can't afford food now and I can't sell it. Some time ago, due to the impact of the epidemic, the company lowered the wages of its employees. A short time ago, influenza A was so severe that my wife and I accidentally caught it. I went to the drugstore to buy the special drugs for it. One pill cost 10 yuan, and each person had to eat 10 pills for 5 days. It cost more than 200 yuan for the two of us. It was about the meal money for the two of us for a week, so in order to save money, we didn't buy the drugs, and we toughed it through. With this mortgage, we can't afford to get sick, not to mention to go out for fun or dine out. We are waiting on this home as if it were our father. We have a kid who is about to go to kindergarten, which is another big expenditure. We haven't paid back the money we borrowed. We are both worried. Sometimes we get so worried that we can't sleep at night. My wife often wakes up in the middle of the night and says that she dreams about other people coming to collect debts. I went to the agent a few days ago and asked how much the home could be sold for. When I did the math, after paying the bank back the money from the sale of the home, I still owed the bank 200,000 yuan, or US 28,000. I felt like jumping off a building. So I decided to cut off the mortgage and let the bank do what they want. Or do you have any solutions? I am genuinely at my wit's end. The main reason for the phenomena of cut-off financial support for overseas Chinese students and mortgages is that China's economy is now in a serious recession. Foreign investors have withdrawn, private entrepreneurs have lost confidence in the CCP, and Chinese people have tightened their purse strings. The three driving forces behind China's economy, investment, consumption, and exports, are shrinking simultaneously, resulting in an economic depression. Especially in manufacturing provinces, many companies in coastal cities are closing down or laying off employees, and there is a wave of closures of brick-and-mortar stores.
朋友们，下班了，今天晚上又不加班了。
Friends, I am off work. There is no overtime tonight. Again, I haven't had overtime for a week in a row. Recently, the orders haven't been adequate. Many factories have closed this year, especially the big ones. Many of them closed. The small ones are slightly better. There are many unemployed people on the streets nowadays, crowds and crowds of unemployed people. I really don't understand why it's like this in 2023. I really wish things could return to what Shenzhen was like a decade ago. At that time, there were a range of different factories. Each day, the employees went to work and came home. They ate and went to have fun on the weekends. Life felt lively, but now many factories are basically empty. I've been reading a lot of news lately. My friend texts me early in the morning saying another factory in their neighborhood had closed. I really don't know why Shenzhen has come to such a state. I feel it's not only Shenzhen, but also other parts of the country. They are all very depressed. Now the shelves are basically empty, no orders from customers, so there is no raw material processing. Processing factories are most vulnerable if they don't have their own specialty products. There are still many factories where even the bosses don't get paid, not to mention shifts for workers. If you are looking for work in Guangdong and Shenzhen, you must think twice before you come and make sure that there is something for you. Now it's after work. You don't even see many employees. It's empty. Before, there were cafeterias on both sides of the street. Now, many factories have moved away. A lot fewer workers were around, so even the cafeterias didn't have any business, and some just closed their doors and closed. There are still many factories around the area. There are factories inside here and then ahead, but it's useless to have many factories and not have any work to do.
We have another foreign trade enterprise that closed down this year. They are upstairs. They rented the second and third floor. On the third floor, they stored the machines, that is, their production equipment. They used the crane to get the machines down, loaded the trucks, and took them away today. The company moved in May or June of 2022. So from last year to this year, in less than a year, it went belly up. At first, their business was quite good. Every month, they would dispatch a container of goods. But after the Chinese New Year, their boss stopped coming here. There has been no one working here since the end of the Chinese New Year. The second floor is piled up with a lot of goods, worth nearly $1 million of inventory. They aren't dispatched. So I feel that this boss has lost a lot of money. They are here in less than a year.